abolition of slavery, or the right of women to vote, the civil rights movement, or women's equality, the anti-apartheid movement, the gay and lesbian rights movement. Every single one of these movements has been met with a long series of no, 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 one after the other, until finally, when the ultimate question was resolved into a simple binary choice between what is right and what is wrong, then finally the last no gave way to a yes. And once the climate crisis is resolved into that simple choice, and we are so close, then we are going to win this because of who we are as human beings. But we make these choices in our elections. It's important to change the light bulbs, but it's way more important to change the laws and the policies and the international agreements. This election is truly historic. And as I have said to some of you, I know very well that the generation of young people, some of whom are here today, will look to us to make this decision. We recently had the anniversary of the moon landing, and they pointed out that the average age of the systems engineers at NASA's Mission Control when Neil Armstrong landed that craft and set foot on the moon was 26 years old. And that means that when President Kennedy issued the challenge 8 years earlier, they were 18 years old. When Armstrong was coming toward the moon's surface, there was a blinking light, warning, warning, warning. He had 30 seconds to make a decision to abort. And they turned to the engineer that was the definitive expert on that warning system and on that light. And he looked at it, he said, "It's okay, go ahead." He was 24 years old. Now these young 20-somethings, some of whom are having their first presidential election, are the ones we ought to be thinking about. And years from now, they'll look back on this election, and they'll look back on us in our day and time. And if they live in a world where all of these catastrophic consequences that I started out by noting are all worse, and the political discord and dysfunction around the world is worse, and tropical diseases and all of the horrors that these scientists here in Boulder have spelled out, if they live in that kind of world, they'd be justified in looking back at us and saying, "What were you thinking? You mean some of y'all didn't vote?" But if they live in a world where renewable energy and sustainable forestry and sustainable agriculture and efficiency improvements of all kinds are creating tens of millions of new jobs, and they have a sense of hope in their heart and live in a world with a sense of renewal, I want them to look back at us and say, "How did you find the courage to shake off the lethargy and really bring about change?" And part of the answer will be tomorrow in this election in Boulder, Colorado. We can do it. Let's elect Hillary Clinton.